So hello, I'm Trevor here with GameLuster, joined by Christine, and we are at IndieCade. We've been at IndieCade, rather. It's Saturday evening, and we've spent several hours looking at all the games, well, just about all the games on the show floors, and we just wanted to recap some of our experiences talking about a few of our favorites. There was a huge variety of games of all kinds. There was,
Yeah.
in addition to digital games, tabletop, interactive, performative ones. It was a really good mix. So I'll let Christine start us off. Just what were like your two or three favorite games from the show?
It's really hard to decide, honestly, because there's so much more than I was expecting. I thought, because I'd never been to IndieCade before, it was mostly PC games, maybe some console. I wasn't expecting like narrative games, interactive stories, tabletop. And so for me, it's more putting my favorites from categories, just because there's so many types. I feel like it's not fair to compare them when they're so different from each other. Starting with more of the tabletop type games, I would probably say Stress Express is one of my favorites that we played. Really interesting game. You sort of have to complete these tasks, and you take turns being in charge of other people and giving them tasks, divvying them out, and doing them as quickly as possible. Sometimes it's drawing something, sometimes it's doing something. And I usually don't like these types of games, things like Quelf and stuff like that. I find them very awkward. But then for some reason, the design of this one, the mechanics, it didn't feel awkward. It was just fun, even though it was with people I didn't even know at the time. Let me think. Little Trees was also a very interesting game because it has a tree building thing, obviously. So you build little trees. And so it is a tabletop game. It actually builds up, and you can build sideways. You can make your tree tall or gnarled or however you want. There's tiny little mushrooms and birds and different types of trees. I think it was laurel, maple, and cherry blossom. So those were interesting. I think my favorite, just because of how unique it is Bluebeard's Bride. That one, the art was amazing, absolutely gorgeous. Apparently they did it by hand. It's all ink and gold leaf. I would recommend looking that one up, and it's actually more of a role-playing game. So you get the books and you play with a couple other people. The story is very interesting. It's sort of a dark take on a fairy tale, retelling on a fairy tale that's Turkish. So I think that one was probably one of my favorites, just because, I don't know, it was so unique. It stood out so much. It was gorgeous, and it has this sort of dark atmosphere to it, magical atmosphere, that I really appreciated, and I would love to go out and get it as soon as possible. So I know I picked three just board game ones, but what are a couple of your favorites that you can think of?
Well, I did not divide mine into categories. I just went through my favorites, and one of them that I just saw now is called a 10.1942, and it's a historical fiction game. It's set in the present day, but it's about a story in Nazi-occupied Czech Republic. And what you're doing in the game is you're interviewing people, again in the present day, trying to find out about your grandfather, who had been captured by the Gestapo when the Nazis occupied the Czech Republic after it was ceded to them by a gathering of powers, including Prime Minister Chamberlain before Churchill was Prime Minister of Great Britain. But it was really interesting. It consists of course, the real life video recordings of you interviewing people and selecting options. And then there are parts of it like where you read a very detailed journal entry recorded by someone at the time. And though it is historical fiction, you really get a sense of the attention to detail that the developers put into it. the dev on hand whom I spoke with is actually a history teacher. Right now he teaches at a private high school. He has taught at college, but his specialty is Eastern European history. And
Perfect.
yeah, and he studied abroad in the Czech Republic, and he's working with people there. And apparently he said there's been a lot of heated discussions amongst them about how to portray the character since it is fictional.
Yeah.
So what stood out to me, I was immersed in it, reading a journal entry, and I wanted to keep listening to these people talking and telling these stories. But then also you respect the very high attention to detail that they had.
Yeah.
And another one I liked, I too did like Stress Express. And I mean, if you don't look anything up, and I mean you should, but it's fun to keep having these tasks fed to you, and you have a matter of seconds to complete them, you know, and it's crazy fun. And speaking of crazy fun, I also liked what was called the Octopad.
That one is great.
Yes, yes, it's an NES setup, an actual NES setup that they've modded, where it has 8 controllers, and each one is for a single button. So if you're playing Super Mario Brothers, you have to coordinate with everyone who has these buttons. And, you know, if you're stuck with a select button, you're kind of out of luck.
You have nothing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got the start button, you could throw everyone off because you could just keep pressing it right in mid-jump and make them die.
Yeah.
You could do something like that, but it's not going to be very helpful.
Yeah, it wouldn't be cooperating. It wouldn't be a cooperative game at that point. But yeah, you can just keep pausing it if you have start. If you have A, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and you're going to be working with the people with the left and right buttons. So that was really, really interesting.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because they actually wrote a book about metagaming. And so I think they said that it was even free online, that you could go and read it. It's actually called Metagaming. And the project sort of went with that. So it was interesting to see somebody there representing a work they had done, almost like a research and a book they had written, and then applying it to actual games and bringing it and showing it to people. So you could read the book, or you could play the game, or you can do both. And I definitely want to go find the book and read it now after experiencing the Octopad.
Oh yeah, me too. And one other thing I'll mention before getting into my 2 top favorites is the Klaxon Radio Hour. It's interesting. It's this toy radio that they have set up that you can interact with. So it's a radio sitting there, and the recorded voices in it are telling you a story based on like classic crime thrillers. And in this one, the investigator is named Kate Keene. It's Sandra McCall as Kate Keene, investigator. And at each point in the story, you're given choices of where to turn the radio dial for the characters to do something, like investigate this room or investigate this hallway, and you turn the dial accordingly. So it is like a non-linear story in that sense. And it's, if you like the aesthetics of old radio shows or old movies, they even had a little setup with antique lamps and everything. It's really fun and interesting as well.
And they were real antiques that they actually had from their grandmother. So
wow.
The radio was something they had gutted and fixed that's a toy, but all the other things they had on their display were actual antiques from their grandparents.
Wow, that made it even more impressive. So I have a couple of my top favorites. I'll go ahead and let Christine continue here with her categories, and then I'll note mine later. But
yeah, and I forgot to mention Post Curious. It's actually the first one we saw when we first walked in. They're little adventure mystery packets that you can get, and it's loosely based off of Norse mythology. It has runes and all these different things, and that one is very interesting. Let me think. If I went for ones that I found very interesting, like very unique games, Lost Words is a very interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
Actually made by professors, and it's more of an app sort of game that they're making, and you have these great works of literature, and there's sort of a little fill-in-the-blank brain teaser kind of game. And just the UI of it is so clean and so beautiful, and the design of all the book covers based off of Penguin Classics, really interesting, and something I could see myself doing just in my spare time between things. So it's not really, I wouldn't consider it, oh, this is a full game, but it's definitely a fun pastime. The Distance was also another one I hadn't seen something like before. It's actually made for long distance relationships, which I think could work with friends too. It doesn't have to be someone you're dating or married to, I think. And you actually play together, and you need to cooperate to get things done, but you can't talk to each other. Obviously, you have to be on the phone or something. So it has these layers to it where you have to, you know, be Skyping or FaceTiming with the person and trying to figure out these puzzles together. The characters are really cute as well. So I think that one was another really interesting, fun one. But yeah, and as far as a favorite of just like a really fun, cute one, it's so hard. Guildlings, I think, was a favorite of everybody's.
Yeah.
It was a very popular one. I think it was called like Wizards and Wi-Fi or something like that. If I got it wrong, I'm sorry. But it was very popular, really cute art style, and it mixes sort of modern texting and internet and memes and things with a concept of magic. And that one I'm really excited for it to come out, and I think it's probably one of my top favorites. And I'll stop there because I'm listing way too many. But back to you.
Thank you. And yeah, that's tons to list. I don't know if too many is possible, but I have a couple more I did want to mention here. One of them is actually a game that's already out. You can find it on Steam. It's called Little Bug.
Yes.
And it's it's a platformer where you're playing as, you start out as a young girl coming home from school, and it's clear through that phase, and then later in the game that you're kind of in your own little world, in this own little dream world, or kind of more like nightmare world. It does have a dark theme to it, but the game mechanic to it is you control her with one analog stick and then an orb with the other. So you're lining up this orb, and it shoots out a ray that then attaches to your character, and you can use it to swing you or propel you.
Yeah. Well, you have no jump, so it's the only way to go up or to move forward, really, is to use the little orb.
Yeah, and it gets really tricky, like if you're trying to cross a gap, precisely because, as you pointed out, you can't jump. You have to get the momentum just right where you can swing yourself into the correct position. And I always love platformers like that, atmospheric platformers with a little twist thrown in. I love, so that one stood out to me.
And you can play it by yourself, and they want to eventually make it so you can play with another person, maybe, just because it naturally has local multiplayer. So if it was like out on the Switch or something, you know, you could do just one person does the girl, one person does the orb, and it would basically be equal amounts of work as well. So I hope they do something like that, because I think it would be extra difficult and extra fun to play with another person.
Yes, definitely. It could work. It could work with co-op. And then the last one I want to mention, it was called I Was Here, and I love it, of course, because it was a first-person game, first-person immersive, where you're picking up objects for the sake of discovering narrative, and those are always my favorite types of games. This one, it was one of the developers' school projects that she made in just a semester, actually.
Yeah.
That was pretty
really impressive.
Yes.
Most people take, I think, theirs was the shortest compared to, I think another person said 10 months, but theirs wasn't done yet. So I think theirs, it was one person, one semester, and it was incredibly impressive that they did it in that amount of time. Yes,
because it was 3 acts. It is on itch.io as a free download, but it was a really neat experience. It's 3 acts. You're exploring your past. You're a girl, and you're exploring your past and your relationship with another girl when you were both in college, I believe, and you're exploring the dorm room, I believe it was.
Yeah, their dorm room.
And picking up little objects and discovering their story through them. So I I really liked that one. And those were the ones I wanted to highlight. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Yes. Okay, so I didn't actually say my top favorite yet, because I'm just building up to it. Little Bug was definitely one of my favorites. I was playing it and playing it and playing it, and I heard the developer say to someone else I had been playing for about 45 minutes, and I thought I'd been playing for 10, and I realized, okay, I probably should stop now and just go get the game because it's already out. So
Yes.
I'll be really frustrated if I find out that I was almost at the end of the demo before I quit. But so I stopped there. Definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. So I think my honorable mentions of sorts. Blade's Fury. I played for a while. I put it on the hardest difficulty. Not a great idea. But I'm proud of myself for how far I got, having never played it before. It's still being translated into English, but it's a gorgeous game, and I'm really excited for when that comes out. The whole company that does all those different games, I think, just does a wonderful job. They're all very different. Pixel Ripped was a fun VR game. If you're into VR, very retro, Mega Man feel, and really interesting. Definitely look into that. My favorite game actually was one of the first ones I played, which was Ministry of Broadcast. So that was probably my favorite one out of everything I played, actually. Really simple. It gives you the feeling of Papers, Please almost, with the color palette and things, and you're sort of in this dystopian, I don't want to say dystopian, but in this sort of tyrannical world, and you have to compete in a game show in order to basically survive and there's a wall. Yeah, so there's a wall and you have to survive the game show to cross over the wall and reunite with your family. And so I think it's a really interesting narrative on the past and the present, and I like how sadistic the game is. And I really enjoyed, even though I kept dying, I kept trying over and over, and when I finally got it right, it was so satisfying. Played through 4 levels of that one, since that's all they had to show for now. But the team is actually Czech, and yeah, it's really a great experience, I think. And it is a platformer game. It is more of a pixel style art, but I love the little crow, and I love all the little details, all the little posters, the humor, dark humor of it. So, favorite one, the one that basically got my vote, was Ministry of Broadcast. So yeah, anything you would like to say to wrap up?
I think that's about it. She referenced voting. There is an awards ceremony tonight that we'll go to, and they'll be picking some games. Each attendee was able to vote on their 3 favorites. So there's still that, but the show's wrapping up, and it was a lot of fun. It was real busy. It was exciting meeting all the devs. So yeah, IndieCade 2018 here, and I guess I should have said this at the start, but here at Santa Monica College, here at the Media and Design Center. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was.
All right, that is all from us, Christine and myself, Trevor. Thank you for watching. Remember to check out GameLuster.com. We'll be putting up stories and some pieces on the games we saw throughout the next couple weeks. And follow us at GameLuster and keep up to date. Stay in touch. Thank you.